The Galactic Council had seen many threats in its 12,000 cycles of existence. Warlords who commanded entire armadas. Telepathic conquerors who could bend minds across star systems. Ancient machines that consumed planets for fuel. But nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, had ever seen anything quite like Raktos the Bloodied. The Pirate King stood 3 meters tall, his exoskeleton reinforced with stolen military plating that gleamed under the harsh lights of his command ship. 4 arms, each capable of crushing durasteel, crossed over his barrel chest as he surveyed his latest prize. The viewing screen showed the luxury cruiser he'd just boarded, its passengers now cowering in the main deck, while his crew of cutthroats moved through the corridors like hungry predators. 53 hostages, his second-in-command, a Velthari female named Shrix, clicked through her mandibles, including Ambassador Telk and his entire diplomatic entourage. The Council will have no choice but to meet our demands. Raktos let out a rumbling laugh that shook the deck plates. They'll pay. They always pay. 10 million credits per head, or I start spacing them one by one. I watched this unfold from my position at the communications array, my 3-fingered hands trembling slightly as I monitored the distress signals flooding every military channel within 5 sectors. As the ship's communications officer, I had no choice but to relay Raktos's threats to the authorities. And believe me, the threats were creative. The Council's response came within the hour. Predictable, bureaucratic, a promise to negotiate, a plea for patience, a guarantee that no military action would be taken while talks proceeded. Raktos had heard it all before. This was his 17th successful hijacking in 2 standard cycles. He knew the script better than the Council representatives themselves. What he didn't know, what none of us knew, was that the humans had other ideas. The first indication came 3 hours into the standoff. My console lit up with an incoming transmission, encrypted with codes I'd never seen before. Military grade, but not from any Council fleet. "Unknown vessel approaching," I called out, my voice cracking slightly. "Single ship, small, refusing to identify." Raktos uncrossed his upper arms, his compound eyes narrowing. "Weapons? Scanning now." I manipulated the controls, feeling sweat begin to form on my dorsal ridge. "Minimal armament. Looks like a transport shuttle? Maybe a courier? Blow it out of space." Wait! Shrix held up one clawed hand. "It's broadcasting on an open channel, audio only." The voice that came through the speakers was calm, too calm. It had that strange, flat quality that human voices sometimes carried, like they were discussing the weather rather than a hostage situation involving 53 terrified sentients. "Raktos, my name is Captain Elena Reeves, United Earth Diplomatic Corps. I'm coming aboard to negotiate." The bridge went silent. Even the ambient hum of the engines seemed to pause. Raktos stared at the view screen, then at Shrix, then back at the screen. Did that human just say she's coming aboard? Alone? Apparently. Shrix's mandibles twitched in what I'd learned to recognize as confusion. "Sir, should I target her ship?" "No." Raktos leaned forward, his massive frame casting shadows across the command deck. "Let her come. I want to see this." See, here's something you need to understand about humans. They'd only been part of the Galactic Council for about 15 cycles. Newcomers, fresh faces, and in that time, they'd developed a reputation for being unpredictable. Not dangerous, mind you. They didn't have the military might of the Korthan Empire or the technological superiority of the Axian Collective. They were just weird. They did things that made no logical sense. They formed emotional attachments to random objects. They created art about their own mortality. They kept predatory animals as companions in their living spaces and called them pets. They consumed toxins for recreation and called it having a good time. Most species kept them at arm's length, both literally and figuratively. But unpredictable didn't mean harmless, and Raktos was no fool. As the human shuttle docked with our airlocks, he assembled a greeting party of 12 heavily armed crew members. Each one carried enough firepower to level a building. Each one had killed before, and would kill again, without hesitation. The airlock cycled. The pressure equalized. The doors hissed open. And out stepped the most unimpressive creature I'd ever seen. Captain Elena Reeves was short. Laughably short by Galactic standards, barely reaching the chest height of the smallest crew member present. She wore a simple gray uniform with minimal insignia. No armor, no visible weapons. Her hair was pulled back in a functional style, and her face held an expression of mild interest, like she'd just arrived at a moderately engaging museum exhibit. Raktos, I presume. She looked up at the Pirate King without a trace of fear. Nice ship. I especially like what you've done with the torture chamber. Very retro. The silence stretched. Nobody moved. I think half the crew forgot to breathe. Raktos recovered first, his rumbling laugh echoing through the corridor. A human with a sense of humor. How delightful. Tell me, little creature, do you understand the situation you've just walked into? Oh, absolutely. Elena clasped her hands behind her back, completely at ease, despite being surrounded by enough weaponry to vaporize her several times over. You've taken 53 hostages from a diplomatic cruiser. You're demanding 10 million credits per head. Standard pirate protocol, really. I've read your file, by the way. Very thorough. The incident with the Proxima trading post was particularly imaginative. You've read my file. Raktos leaned down, bringing his face level with hers. Up close, his mandibles could have bitten her head clean off. And you still came alone. That's either courage or stupidity. Why not both? Elena smiled, and that's when I noticed something odd about human expressions. They could smile while their eyes remained completely cold. It was deeply unsettling. Now, shall we negotiate? I'd prefer to do this somewhere more comfortable. Your bridge, perhaps? The audacity. The absolute, unmitigated audacity. Raktos stared at her for a long moment, then threw back his head and laughed again. I like you, human. You've got nerve. Very well. Shrix, take our guest to the bridge. If she tries anything, tear her arms off. Just the arms? Elena asked pleasantly. Most species go for the head first. You know, quicker, more efficient. The arms, Raktos confirmed, his eyes glittering with something between amusement and menace. Then the legs. Then we'll see how funny you are. Looking forward to it. They brought her to the bridge, and I got my first close look at her. Humans are primates, evolved from tree-dwelling creatures on their homeworld. They have binocular vision, which means they focus intensely on whatever they're looking at. When Elena swept her gaze across the bridge, I felt like she was cataloging every detail, every crew member, every potential weakness. It was the look of a predator, I realized with a chill. Not the mindless aggression of a carnivore, but the calculated assessment of something that hunted using its brain rather than its claws. So, Raktos settled into his command chair, which groaned under his weight. You're here to negotiate. The Council has authorized payment? Not exactly. Elena examined the bridge with apparent interest, stopping to look at the weapons array. Nice plasma cannons, mil-spec, stolen from a Corthon destroyer if I'm not mistaken. You must have lost quite a few crew taking those. 8 good soldiers. Raktos' voice hardened. Worth it. Stop stalling, human. What are you offering? Me. The word hung in the air like a dropped grenade. Shrix's mandibles clicked rapidly. What? Me, Elena repeated calmly. 1 hostage in exchange for 53. You let everyone on that cruiser go, and I stay. 1 for 53. Mathematically speaking, you're getting the better deal. I couldn't help it. I laughed. The sound came out as a nervous chirp, and several crew members turned to glare at me, but honestly, the absurdity of the situation had exceeded my capacity for professionalism. Raktos didn't laugh. His eyes narrowed to slits. Why would I accept that deal? You're worth nothing. 1 human diplomat versus 53 valuable hostages, including a council ambassador. Explain to me why I shouldn't just keep all of you. Because I'm not offering myself as a hostage. Elena's smile widened slightly. I'm offering myself as bait. Bait for what? For whoever comes to rescue me. The implication hit like a physical blow. Raktos surged to his feet, his full height, making him tower over the human like a mountain over a pebble. You're threatening me? You walk onto my ship, alone, unarmed, and you threaten me? No, no, no. Elena held up her hands in a placating gesture. I'm not threatening you. I'm offering you valuable information. See, right now, the Council is preparing their response. They'll send negotiators. Drag this out for days, maybe weeks. Eventually, they'll probably pay. But boring, right? No glory in that. No stories for the spacer bars. She started walking around the bridge, hands still behind her back, like she was giving a lecture. Several crew members raised their weapons, but Raktos waved them off, fascinated despite himself. But if you take me, Elena continued, if you specifically take a human hostage and let everyone else go, well, that changes everything. My people don't negotiate for hostages. We don't pay ransoms. We come get our people back, always. I have defensive systems that could repel an entire fleet. Raktos gestured at the tactical displays. Your little Earth vessels are barely capable of faster-than-light travel. You think I'm afraid of your military? Our military? No. Elena stopped walking, turning to face him directly. Our military follows rules, protocols, the Council's precious regulations about proportional response and collateral damage. But when a human gets taken, when one of our own is held hostage, that's when we send the other ones. What other ones? The ones who don't follow rules. The temperature on the bridge seemed to drop several degrees. I checked my console, but the environmental controls hadn't changed. It was just the way she said it. Casual, matter-of-fact, like she was discussing an inevitable natural phenomenon. Raktos circled her slowly, all 4 arms flexing. You're bluffing, trying to scare me with stories. Humans are merchants and diplomats, not warriors. Everyone knows this. Mostly true, Elena agreed, but you're forgetting something important. We're also the species that climb to the top of our food chain on a planet actively trying to kill us. Predators 10 times our size. Diseases that could wipe out entire populations. Weather that could freeze or boil us depending on the season. We survived all of that without any natural advantages. No armored shells, no venomous fangs, no psychic abilities. She tapped her temple. Just this, and the absolute stubborn refusal to give up, ever, on anything, for any reason. Shrix shifted uneasily. Sir, perhaps we should reconsider. Silence. Raktos kept his eyes fixed on Elena. So your plan is what? I take you hostage, and your people send their best warriors to rescue you. Then I kill those warriors, adding to my reputation. Is that it? Close, Elena said, except for the part where you kill them. That's not really how it works. Then enlighten me. Elena's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes did. A flicker of something cold and ancient. 5 cycles ago, Vraxian warlord took 3 human aid workers hostage on Helios Station, demanded weapons and safe passage. Earth sent a negotiator. The warlord thought he was tough, that he had leverage. He executed one of the aid workers on live broadcast to prove he was serious. She paused, letting the silence build. 36 hours later, that warlord and his entire operation ceased to exist. The station's security footage showed 12 humans entering through what should have been impregnable defenses. They weren't soldiers, the council checked. They were just people. A teacher, a cargo pilot, an accountant, a retired medical technician. What they did to that warlord and his crew was never officially recorded, but the rumors spread fast. Real fast. Fairy tales, Raktos scoffed, but his voice lacked conviction. Maybe. Or maybe the reason you've never targeted human vessels before is because you've heard the same stories everyone else has. The Terran Extraction Protocol. The unofficial policy that says, when you take a human hostage, you're not negotiating with the government. You're negotiating with every single human who hears about it. And we're stubborn. Remember, we take it personally. I found myself checking the sensor arrays, half expecting to see a fleet of human vessels materializing out of nowhere. Nothing yet. Just the diplomatic cruiser, still locked in place, and Elena's small shuttle. Raktos was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. You're asking me to believe that your species operates outside the Council's laws, that you have secret warriors who appear from nowhere to rescue captives, that I should be afraid of accountants and teachers. Believe what you want, Elena shrugged. I'm just offering you a choice. Take the boring route, negotiate with the Council, drag this out, eventually get your money. Or take the interesting route. Keep me, let the others go, see what happens. Your reputation either grows tremendously, or you become a cautionary tale. Either way, it'll be memorable. The tension on the bridge was thick enough to cut with a blade. Every crew member was watching their captain, waiting for the decision. I caught Shrix's eye, and she looked as uncertain as I felt. Raktos was a pirate, but he wasn't stupid. He'd survived this long by knowing when to fight and when to run, by calculating risks and rewards, by never, ever underestimating an opponent. But he was also proud, and proud creatures often make interesting decisions. Very well, he said finally. I accept your offer, human. You stay, everyone else goes. But know this, if your mysterious rescuers come, I will enjoy tearing them apart. And you will watch. Elena nodded once. Fair enough. I'll need to send a message to the cruiser. Let them know the deal. Standard diplomatic protocol. Send your message. Raktos waved dismissively. Then we'll see how long your courage lasts in the holding cells. I routed the URDS, communication through my console, and Elena spoke clearly into the pickup. This is Captain Reeves. I've negotiated the release of all hostages. You have safe passage to leave the area immediately. Do not attempt a rescue. Repeat. Do not attempt a rescue. I'll handle this. Reeves out. Short, professional, absolutely terrifying in its calmness. Within the hour, the diplomatic cruiser was gone, warping away to safety with all 53 former hostages aboard. And Elena Reeves sat in a holding cell 3 decks below the bridge, completely alone, except for 2 guards who looked distinctly uncomfortable with their assignment. Raktos stood at the viewport, watching the stars slide past. Shrix, increase sensor range to maximum. I want to know the moment any human vessel enters this sector. Yes, sir. She moved to comply, then hesitated. Sir, do you really think they'll come? Oh, they'll come. Raktos's reflection in the viewport showed an expression I'd never seen before. Not fear exactly, but something close. Uncertainty, perhaps. The question isn't if, it's when, and how many. I returned to my station, monitoring communications across all frequencies. Nothing unusual, standard merchant traffic. Patrol updates from nearby council fleets. The diplomatic cruiser checking in to confirm their safe arrival at the nearest station. Everything perfectly normal. Which is exactly what made me nervous. Because Elena Reeves had walked onto a pirate vessel alone, unarmed, and utterly confident. And despite all logic, despite all tactical sense, despite everything I knew about hostage situations, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't the ones in control here. We were just playing our part in something that had already been set in motion. And somewhere out there, in the vast darkness of space, something was coming. The first 6 hours passed without incident, but the atmosphere on the ship changed. Crew members jumped at shadows. Arguments broke out over trivial matters. Even Raktos seemed distracted, checking tactical displays every few minutes. I'd just finished my shift rotation when Shrix called me back to the bridge. We have movement, multiple contacts, emerging from FTL, human signatures. My stomach dropped. How many? Raktos demanded. 15 ships. No, wait, 20, 30. Shrix's mandibles clicked frantically. Sir, they're everywhere, surrounding us. How did they— Battle stations, Raktos roared. All weapons hot. Prepare for— Sir, my voice came out as a whisper. They're not military vessels. Everyone turned to stare at my console. I pulled up the identification data, reading it with growing disbelief. Cargo freighter, personal yacht, mining tug, medical transport, survey vessel. They're civilian ships, all of them. Armed? Raktos asked. I checked the weapons signatures. Standard defensive systems only. Nothing that could threaten us. Then, what are they doing here? As if in answer, every single ship began broadcasting on the same frequency. The voice that came through was different from Elena's. Male, younger, but with that same unsettling calmness. This is Captain Marcus Webb of the freighter Distant Star. We understand you have Captain Reeves aboard. We'd like her back now, please. Please, he said please, while commanding 30 civilian ships, in what should have been the most poorly planned rescue attempt in galactic history. Raktos leaned forward, activating the communication system. Your ships are no match for my weapons. Leave now, or I'll destroy every one of you before turning Captain Reeves into debris. There was a pause. Then laughter, actual laughter, echoed across all 30 ships. Yeah, we figured you'd say that, Marcus replied. Here's the thing, though. You see that mining tug on your port side? The one that looks like it barely survived atmospheric entry? That belongs to Sarah Chen. She's a grandmother of 5. Lost her husband to pirates 10 cycles ago. Been working the asteroid fields ever since, sending money back to her kids. Another voice cut in, feminine and sharp. This is Chen. That's right. And the yacht 3 kilometers off your starboard? That's Dr. Kieran Osei, retired surgeon. Spends his time now running medical supplies to frontier colonies. Osei here, a new voice confirmed. And I'm right next to the Wandering Spirit, captained by James Morrow. He's a teacher, literally teaches 3rd-grade children, mostly math and basic sciences. The voices kept coming, a cascade of introductions, each one a person, each one with a story, each one human. 37 ships now, Shrix reported, her voice shaking. More arriving every minute. What is this? Raktos stared at the tactical display like it had personally betrayed him. Some kind of psychological warfare? No, I said quietly, understanding finally dawning. It's worse. They're showing him that Elena wasn't exaggerating. Every single one of them came. The communication channel crackled again. Marcus's voice returned, but the humor was gone now. We're not military, Raktos. We're not special forces or black ops or any of that exciting stuff. We're just humans who heard that one of our people was taken, and we can't let that stand. It's not in our nature. Then you're all fools, Raktos snarled. I can destroy your ships before you get within weapons range. True, Marcus agreed. You absolutely could. But here's what you're not understanding. We don't need to get within weapons range. We just need to be here. 42 ships, Shrix whispered. Sir, they're forming a perimeter around us. They're not attacking. They're just waiting. Raktos turned to me. Get Captain Reeves. Bring her to the bridge, now. 2 guards dragged her up minutes later. She looked completely unbothered by her brief imprisonment, even offering me a friendly nod as she passed my station. The guards shoved her toward Raktos, who grabbed her by the shoulder with one massive hand. Call them off, he growled, or I'll kill you right here, right now, on open broadcast. Elena didn't flinch. You could do that, but then what? They won't leave. They'll just stay, watching, waiting, following you wherever you go, and more will come, and more, until eventually you can't run, can't hide, can't do anything without seeing human ships on your sensors. I'll kill them all. Maybe the first few, but they keep coming. That's what we do, Raktos. We're persistence hunters. It's how our ancestors caught prey on Earth. We didn't need to be faster or stronger. We just needed to never, ever give up. We'd track animals for days, weeks, following them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We're built for endurance, not speed, for stubbornness, not strength. She pulled away from his grip, straightening her uniform. 56 ships now, I'm guessing. And that's just the ones who could get here quickly. Give it another few hours, and you'll have hundreds, all of them willing to follow you to the edge of the galaxy, if necessary. All of them watching, all of them waiting for you to make one mistake, show one weakness. This is insane, Shrix breathed. This is human, Elena corrected. We don't have your armor or your strength. We don't have telepathy or superior technology. What we have is community. When you take one of us, you take on all of us. And we will never stop coming. Raktos stood frozen, his forearms hanging limply at his sides. On the tactical display, the count hit 63 ships. 63 civilian vessels, each one crewed by ordinary humans who'd dropped everything to come to this sector. No military backing, no official support. Just people who'd heard the call and answered. "What do you want?" Raktos asked finally, his voice defeated. "Let me go," Elena said simply. "Safe passage to any of those ships. And in exchange, they all leave. No retaliation. No revenge. We go our separate ways." "Just like that?" "Just like that. I walk out, you continue your career of piracy, preferably targeting species who don't take it quite so personally. Everyone wins." The silence on the bridge was absolute. I could hear my own breathing, rapid and shallow. Could see the tension in every crew member's posture. Raktos looked at the tactical display one more time. 70 ships now. Then he looked back at Elena Reeves, this tiny human who'd walked onto his ship alone and somehow orchestrated the most effective rescue operation I'd ever witnessed without firing a single shot. "Go," he said. "Get off my ship. All of you. Get out." Elena smiled, genuine warmth replacing the cold assessment from before. "Pleasure doing business with you, Raktos. And for what it's worth, I meant what I said. You're smart, adaptable, and you survived when most wouldn't. Find a better line of work. The galaxy could use someone like you on the right side." She turned and walked toward the airlock, her stride confident and unhurried. The guards parted for her like she was royalty. At the threshold, she paused and looked back. "Oh, and Raktos? One more thing. If you ever change your mind about this whole piracy situation, Earth is always looking for people with your skill set. Legal work, of course, but the pay is comparable, and significantly fewer humans show up to ruin your day." Then she was gone, the airlock cycling closed behind her. On my console, I watched her shuttle detach from our hull and navigate toward the nearest civilian vessel. The moment she docked safely, all 70-plus human ships began turning away, firing up their FTL drives one by one. Within an hour, they were all gone, like they'd never been there at all. Except everyone on our ship knew they had been, and everyone knew they could come back. Raktos slumped in his command chair, looking older somehow. Diminished. "Set course for the Frontier Nebula. Maximum speed. We need to disappear for a while." "Sir," Shrix ventured carefully, "what do we tell the crew?" "Tell them the truth." He stared at the empty space where 70 ships had been. "Tell them we just learned why nobody messes with the humans. Because they don't send armies or fleets or diplomats. They send people. Regular people who become something more when one of their own needs them." I started to plot the navigation course, my hands shaking slightly. I'd served on pirate vessels for 6 cycles, seen boarding actions, space battles, desperate escapes from military patrols, but I'd never seen anything like this. Never witnessed an entire species operate as one organism, responding to a threat against a single member with overwhelming force that somehow never fired a shot. As I watched the stars slip past, heading toward our hiding place in the nebula, I couldn't help but wonder what Captain Elena Reeves was doing right now. Probably filing reports. Maybe having a drink with some of those civilian captains who'd dropped everything to come get her. Probably smiling that unsettling smile and explaining to someone else why you never, ever take a human hostage. Because humans don't negotiate with pirates. They just show up. All of them. And wait, and that as it turned out, was far more terrifying than any weapon in the galaxy. 3 standard cycles passed before we heard the name Elena Reeves again. 3 cycles of hiding in backwater systems, avoiding major trade routes, and watching Raktos slowly transform from a feared pirate king into a paranoid shadow of his former self. Every sensor blip made him jump. Every unidentified vessel sent him scrambling to check if it was human. The crew noticed. Of course they noticed. "Boss is losing it," muttered Grax, one of the gunners, during a meal rotation. His scales were dull from stress, a common condition spreading through the ship. "We haven't pulled a job in 2 months. Supplies are running low. Morale is worse." I pushed my ration paste around the tray, not really hungry. Can you blame him? You saw what happened. 70 ships, civilians, just for one person. Exactly my point. Grax leaned forward, his voice dropping. One person. She's gone now, back to Earth or wherever humans go. Why are we still hiding? Because once you see what humans are capable of, I wanted to say, you can't unsee it. Because Raktos understood something the rest of the crew didn't quite grasp yet. Those 70 ships weren't a one-time show of force. They were a promise, a demonstration of what happens when you cross that particular line. But I kept my thoughts to myself and finished my meal in silence. The call came on a Tuesday. Well, what passes for Tuesday in Galactic Standard Time. I was running diagnostics on the long-range communications array when an encrypted signal pinged my console. Military-grade encryption, but not from any military I recognized. My dorsal ridge prickled with unease. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. Same encryption protocol as before." Raktos appeared on the bridge faster than I'd seen him move in weeks. "The humans?" "Can't confirm until I decrypt it, but the signature matches." "Play it." I routed the message through the main speakers. Static crackled, then cleared to reveal that now familiar calm voice. "Hello again, Raktos. This is Captain Elena Reeves. I hope you've been well. I'm reaching out with a business proposition. Interested parties should rendezvous at the coordinates I'm transmitting now. Come alone. Come armed if it makes you feel better. But come prepared to listen. You have 48 hours. Reeves out." The message ended. The bridge fell silent except for the ambient hum of ship systems. Shrix was the first to speak. "It's obviously a trap." "Obviously," Raktos agreed. But he was staring at the coordinates displayed on my screen with an expression I couldn't quite read. Why would she contact us specifically, after what happened? "Maybe she wants revenge," suggested one of the tactical officers. "Humans hold grudges. Everyone knows that." "If she wanted revenge," I said quietly, "she'd have taken it 3 cycles ago when she had 70 ships at her back. This is something else." Raktos turned to me. "What would you do if you were in my position?" The question caught me off guard. Raktos rarely asked for opinions, especially not from someone as low-ranking as a communications officer. "Honestly, sir, I'd go. Not because I trust her, but because ignoring a human when they specifically ask for your attention seems like a worse idea than facing whatever they have planned." He nodded slowly. "My thoughts exactly. Shrix, set course for those coordinates, full stealth approach, and prep the escape pods. If this goes sideways, I want options." The journey took 36 hours at maximum sustainable speed. The coordinates led us to an abandoned mining station in the outer reach, a region so far from civilized space that most star charts didn't bother including it. The station orbited a dead moon, its solar panels long since degraded to useless metal frameworks. "I'm detecting one ship," Shrix reported as we approached. "Small. Looks like the same shuttle Reeves used before." "Any other vessels in the vicinity?" "Negative. Sensors are clear for 20 light minutes in every direction." Raktos straightened his battle harness, checking each weapon with practiced efficiency. "I'm going over. If I'm not back in 2 hours, or if you detect any human reinforcements, jump to FTL and don't look back." "Sir, let me accompany you," Shrix insisted. "You shouldn't face her alone." "She came alone last time. I'll extend the same courtesy. Besides, if she wanted me dead, I'd already be dead. This is something else. I need to know what." I watched through the external cameras as Raktos's shuttle crossed the void between our ship and the station. The ancient airlock cycled with agonizing slowness, probably hadn't been used in decades. Then he disappeared inside, and all we could do was wait. The 2 hours stretched like elastic time. Shrix paced the bridge. I monitored every frequency for signs of incoming vessels. The rest of the crew went about their duties with forced normalcy, but everyone kept glancing at the chronometer. At the 90-minute mark, my console lit up. "Transmission from the station, audio only." "Put it through," Shrix ordered. Elena's voice filled the bridge. "This is Reeves to the ship lurking behind the moon. Your captain is fine. We're finishing up our discussion. He'll be heading back shortly. Oh, and nice stealth approach, but your reactor signature is leaking on the port nacelle. Might want to get that checked. Reeves out." Shrix and I exchanged glances. She'd known we were there the entire time. Of course she had. 20 minutes later, Raktos's shuttle docked. He strode onto the bridge, his expression unreadable, and headed straight for his quarters without a word to anyone. We jumped to FTL an hour later, coordinates already plotted. When Shrix finally tracked down Raktos to ask where we were going, he was in the cargo bay, taking inventory of our weapons stockpile. "We have a job," he said simply. "What kind of job?" "The legal kind." The explanation came during a mandatory crew assembly in the main hold. Raktos stood on an elevated platform, his massive frame casting long shadows under the harsh lighting. The entire crew was present, about 40 beings from a dozen different species, all confused and increasingly nervous. "3 cycles ago," Raktos began, his voice carrying easily across the space, "a human walked onto this ship and changed everything. Not through force, not through threats, but by showing me what happens when you make an enemy of an entire species that refuses to operate by conventional rules." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I stood near the back, watching reactions. Since then, we've been hiding, running, living like prey instead of predators. I'm tired of it. You're tired of it. So I met with Captain Reeves today, and she made me an offer. He paused, letting the tension build. Raktos had always had a flair for drama. "The outer reach is falling apart. Colony worlds out here have no protection from raiders, slavers, or worse. The Council fleets don't patrol this far out. Local militias are overwhelmed. So the human government is contracting private security firms. Mercenaries, essentially. But legal ones. Sanctioned ones. Ones that get paid very well to do exactly what we've been doing, just pointed at different targets." The murmurs grew louder. Someone shouted a question I couldn't make out. Raktos raised one hand for silence. "We're pirates, criminals. I'm not pretending otherwise. But Captain Reeves made a compelling argument. We have skills, resources, experience. Things the Outer Reach colonies desperately need. And in exchange for providing those things, we get pardons, clean records, legitimate pay, and we never have to worry about 70 civilian ships showing up to ruin our day because we'll be on the right side for once. It's a trick, someone yelled from the middle of the crowd. The humans want us where they can control us. Maybe, Raktos acknowledged, but consider the alternative. We keep running, keep hiding. Eventually, our luck runs out. We cross the wrong species, take the wrong hostage, and end up as cautionary tales told in spacer bars. Or we take this chance. Prove we're more than just pirates. Become something the galaxy actually needs instead of something it wants eliminated. He looked across the assembled crew, making eye contact with as many as possible. I'm taking this deal. Anyone who wants to come with me stays aboard. Anyone who doesn't, we'll drop you at the nearest neutral station with enough credits to start over. No judgment, no hard feelings. You have 6 hours to decide. The assembly broke up into heated discussions. Some crew members were enthusiastic, seeing opportunity. Others were suspicious, convinced this was a trap. Most were simply uncertain, caught between the familiar life of piracy and the unknown territory of legitimacy. I found myself in Raktos's command office 3 hours later, summoned by Shrix. The Pirate King sat behind a desk piled with data pads, looking more tired than I'd ever seen him. You wanted to see me, sir? Sit. He gestured to a chair. You were right, 3 cycles ago. When you said I should go meet with Captain Reeves, your instincts were good. So I'm asking for your opinion again. Am I making a mistake? I settled into the chair, considering my words carefully. Do you trust her? Captain Reeves? No, I don't trust anyone. But I believe her when she says the Outer Reach needs protection. I've seen the reports. Entire colonies wiped out by raiders. Slave ships operating openly because there's no one to stop them. It's chaos out here. And you think we can make a difference? Raktos leaned back, his chair creaking. I think we're good at violence. We're good at tactical thinking, at reading situations, at surviving against impossible odds. Those skills don't have to be used for robbery. They can be used for protection instead. It's just a matter of pointing them in a different direction. What did she offer you, specifically? A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Full pardons for everyone who signs on, generous salary, equipment upgrades, and most importantly, autonomy. We operate as an independent unit. Take the jobs we want. Refuse the ones we don't. The only requirements are that we follow council law and report to a human liaison, Captain Reeves, as it happens. So you'd be working for her. With her, Raktos corrected. Partnership, she called it. She provides intelligence and coordinates. We provide the muscle and tactical expertise. Profits split down the middle after expenses. I thought about Elena Reeves, that small human who'd walked onto a pirate ship alone and negotiated her way out with an army of civilians, who'd tracked us down 3 cycles later with a job offer instead of a warrant, who apparently saw potential in a crew of criminals that the rest of the galaxy had written off. I think she's playing a long game, I said finally. I don't know what it is, but humans always play long games. They think in decades and centuries, not cycles. This isn't just about protecting colonies, it's about something bigger. I know, Raktos nodded. But here's the thing. Her long game and our short-term needs happen to align. We get paid. We get legitimacy. We get to stop looking over our shoulders every time a human ship appears on sensors. And if she's building towards something larger, well, maybe being part of that is better than being crushed by it. He had a point. A good one, actually. I'll stay, I told him. If you're taking this deal, I want to see where it leads. Good. I need someone running communications who understands what we're getting into. Spread the word to anyone still on the fence. We leave for the outer reach in 4 hours. By the time our deadline hit, 32 of the original 40 crew members had chosen to stay. The others took their severance pay and departed at a neutral way station, probably to join other pirate crews or try going straight on their own terms. We jumped to the outer reach with a skeleton crew and a cargo hold full of questions. The coordinates Captain Reeves provided led us to a planet called New Samos, a struggling agricultural colony that had been hit by raiders 6 times in the past cycle. The local militia consisted of 20 undertrained farmers with outdated weapons. They'd lost 47 colonists to the last raid, including most of their able-bodied defenders. We set up base in their largest settlement, a sprawling collection of prefabricated buildings surrounded by crop fields that stretched to the horizon. The locals watched us with understandable suspicion. Hard to blame them. We still looked like pirates because we were pirates, just reformed ones, just reformed, allegedly. Elena Reeves arrived 2 days later in a proper military transport this time, accompanied by a team of logistics specialists and enough equipment to outfit a small army. She toured the settlement with the colony administrator, an elderly Threxian named Varos, while we secured the perimeter and set up surveillance systems. That evening, she called a meeting in the settlement's community center. Raktos, Shrix, myself, and the colony leadership all gathered around a holographic display showing the surrounding region. Thank you all for coming. Elena looked fresher than she had any right to be after weeks of travel and coordination. Let me be clear about our situation. The nearest council patrol route is 3 weeks away at best speed. By the time help arrives, any attack will be long over. We're on our own out here. She manipulated the display, highlighting several locations in red. These are known raider bases within striking distance. We've identified at least 4 groups operating in this sector. Slavers, weapons runners, and generalist thieves. They've learned that colonies like New Samos are easy targets, minimal defenses, valuable resources, and nobody coming to help. Until now, Raktos rumbled. Until now, Elena agreed. Our job is to change the equation, make this colony too expensive to attack. Word spreads fast in the criminal community. Once raiders know there's organized resistance here, they'll move on to easier targets. So we're bait, Shrix observed, drawing them in so we can eliminate them. Essentially, Varos has agreed to continue normal operations, harvest schedules, trade shipments, everything that makes this colony look vulnerable. Meanwhile, Raktos and his crew will provide hidden security. When raiders come, and they will come, you'll be ready. One of the colony administrators, a nervous Pelthian female, raised a tentacle. What if you're wrong? What if they come with more ships than you can handle? Then, we call in reinforcements. Elena gestured, and the display shifted to show a network of communication relays. I've been building contacts throughout the outer reach. Other reformed pirate crews, independent mercenaries, even a few retired military types looking for purpose. You won't be alone if things escalate. The meeting continued for another hour, covering logistics, defensive positions, and rules of engagement. Elena was thorough. I had to give her that. She'd thought through every contingency, every potential problem. As people filed out, I lingered near the display, studying the raider positions. Elena noticed and walked over. "Something on your mind?" she asked. "Just trying to understand your angle. Why go through all this effort? Setting up security networks, recruiting pirate crews, establishing bases. The Council has resources for this sort of thing. The Council has bureaucracy, Elena corrected. They have committees and procedures and regulations that take months to navigate. Out here, people need help now, so we're providing it. We? You keep saying we. Who's we exactly? She smiled, that same unsettling expression from our first meeting. Let's just say Earth has realized something important. The galaxy is bigger than the core worlds. There are millions of beings living on the edge in places like this, trying to survive with no support. Help them, and you build relationships. Build enough relationships, and you build influence. Build enough influence, and suddenly you're not the new species everyone ignores. You're the one people turn to when things get difficult. So it is a long game. Everything's a long game if you're patient enough, but in the meantime, real people get real help, and reformed pirates get real second chances. Everybody wins. Before I could respond, alarms blared across the settlement. My communicator crackled with Shrix's voice. Contacts inbound! 3 ships, matching signatures for the Talon Raiders. ETA 15 minutes. Elena didn't look surprised. If anything, she looked satisfied. Well then, let's see how this experiment works out. After you? The next 15 minutes were chaos. The new Samos militia scrambled to their assigned positions, which mostly involved getting civilians into underground shelters. Raktos' crew moved with practiced efficiency, setting up heavy weapons in concealed positions around the settlement. I was stationed in the command center with Elena, coordinating communications. The Talon Raiders came in fast and loud. 3 mid-sized ships dropping out of orbit with weapons charging. They were expecting easy prey. Panicked farmers. Maybe a few warning shots. Then compliance. What they got was a coordinated defensive net that lit them up the moment they entered firing range. The first ship took a direct hit to its port engine, sending it spiraling away from the settlement. The second managed to return fire, but our shielding held. One of the upgrades Elena had brought with her. The third ship tried to pull up and escape, but Raktos had positioned our own vessel perfectly. 1 shot from our main cannon, and their reactor went critical. The entire engagement lasted 4 minutes. When the smoke cleared, 2 raider ships were burning wrecks on the outskirts of the settlement, and the third was limping away with emergency thrusters, leaving a trail of debris. No casualties on our side. 0 damage to the colony infrastructure. Raktos' voice came over the comm. Well, that was satisfying. Elena leaned back in her chair, looking entirely too pleased. Get used to it. We've got 16 more colonies like this one requesting protection. Word's already spreading. Reformed pirates making the outer reach safer. The Council is paying attention, which means funding. More equipment. More recruits. More opportunities. I stared at the tactical display, watching the surviving raider ship disappear into the black. You planned this. The whole thing, picked a colony you knew would get hit, made sure we were ready, demonstrated that your model works. I planned for possibilities and prepared for success. There's a difference. She stood, stretching slightly. But yes, I expected the raiders would come eventually. They always do. The trick was being ready when they arrived. And now everyone knows that New Samos isn't an easy target anymore. Neither are the other 15 colonies we're setting up protection for. Over the next weeks, the pattern repeated. Raiders would approach a colony, expecting easy pickings. Instead, they'd find organized resistance, led by crews who knew every pirate trick because they'd invented half of them. Some raiders retreated. Others fought and lost. A few even approached us asking to join, wanting the same deal Raktos had gotten. Elena vetted each one personally. Some she accepted. Others she turned away, explaining that reformed meant actually reformed, not just temporarily inconvenienced by law enforcement. 3 months into the operation, we held a gathering at New Samos. 23 reformed pirate crews, representatives from 37 colonies, and a delegation from the Outer Reach governors. The community center couldn't hold everyone, so we set up outside under New Samos's twin moons. Elena stood on a makeshift stage, addressing the crowd. 6 months ago, most of you were enemies, pirates and colonists, predators and prey. Tonight, you're partners. The Outer Reach is safer because you chose to make it safer. Colonies are thriving because you're protecting them, and the galaxy is taking notice. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Council has officially recognized the Outer Reach Security Initiative. We're legal. We're funded. We're legitimate. But more importantly, we're proving that people can change, that the skills used for harm can be redirected toward help, that there's always another path if you're brave enough to take it. Raktos stood near the back of the crowd, Shrix beside him. I watched his expression as Elena spoke. Pride, maybe, or relief, or something more complex that didn't have a name. When the speeches ended and informal socializing began, I found myself standing with both Raktos and Elena near the refreshment table. You did good work, Elena told Raktos. All of you did. The reports from every colony are positive. Attack frequency is down 40% across the region. Trade is improving. People feel safe. We did what you paid us to do, Raktos replied. But there was no hostility in his tone. Though I'm starting to suspect you had additional motives beyond just protecting colonies. Always, Elena smiled. But transparent ones. Humanity wants to prove we're valuable members of the galactic community. The best way to do that is by solving problems others can't or won't address. The Outer Reach was neglected. Now it's not. And humans orchestrated that change using resources everyone else had written off. Reformed criminals, obsolete equipment, colonies. Nobody cared about. We took garbage and built something functional. That's the story spreading through council chambers. So we're your proof of concept, I said. Show the galaxy that humans can organize effective solutions in impossible situations. You're partners who benefited from an opportunity we provided. There's a difference. Elena's expression grew more serious. But I won't lie to you. Earth is playing the long game. We're new to galactic politics. We don't have the military might of the Korthan Empire or the economic power of the Axian Collective. What we have is adaptability, creativity, the willingness to look at problems from angles nobody else considers. Recruiting pirates to protect colonies was considered insane by most council members until it worked. Now they're asking how we did it and whether it can be replicated elsewhere. Can it? Raktos asked. I think so. There are a lot of forgotten places in the galaxy, a lot of people who need help, and a lot of beings with useful skills who just need a second chance to use them properly. She raised her glass in a toast. To second chances. May they always be available to those brave enough to take them. We drank to that. Even Raktos, who I'd never seen participate in ceremonial gestures before. As the gathering wound down and people began departing for their ships and homes, I found myself alone with Elena for a moment. Can I ask you something personal? I said. You can ask. I'll decide whether to answer. When you walked onto Raktos's ship alone, were you really that confident? Or was it all an act? She considered the question, gazing up at New Samos's moons. Little of both, honestly. I knew the theoretical response, knew that if I was taken, other humans would come. That's not arrogance. That's just how we're wired. We take care of our own. But standing there, surrounded by pirates with weapons that could vaporize me, yeah, I was scared. Terrified, actually. You didn't show it. That's the trick, isn't it? Confidence is often just fear that's been properly dressed. The galaxy respects strength, so you project strength, even when you're calculating how quickly you could reach an escape pod. She turned to me, her expression softer than usual. But here's what I've learned. Every species has something that makes them special. For humans, it's community. We survive through cooperation, through showing up for each other, even when it's dangerous or inconvenient. That's our superpower, if you want to call it that. Not technology, or telepathy, or physical prowess. Just the stubborn insistence that none of us are alone, unless we choose to be. She clapped me on the shoulder, a very human gesture. You made a good choice, staying with Raktos. I think you're going to see interesting times ahead. Is that a promise or a threat? With humans, it's usually both. 5 cycles later, the Outer Reach Security Initiative had expanded to cover 200 colonies across 3 sectors. Reformed pirate crews numbered in the hundreds. Attack rates had dropped 78%. Trade routes that had been abandoned were reopened. Children could play outside without fear. Raktos commanded a fleet now, not just a single ship. He'd become something of a legend. The pirate king who chose redemption over destruction. The warlord who decided protecting was more profitable than plundering. I'd been promoted to his chief intelligence officer, coordinating information across our network. Shrix ran tactical operations. Many of the original crew held leadership positions in the expanding organization. And Elena Reeves? She'd moved on to other projects, other impossible problems to solve with unconventional solutions. But she checked in regularly, offering advice and resources, maintaining the relationships she'd built. The galaxy learned something important in those cycles. Humans didn't play by traditional rules. They looked at situations everyone else had accepted as unsolvable and asked, why not try this instead? They saw potential where others saw only failure. They offered second chances when conventional wisdom said some people were beyond redemption. Were they manipulating the situation to Earth's benefit? Absolutely. Elena had been clear about that from the start. But their manipulation involved making the galaxy genuinely better, safer, more prosperous, more willing to give people opportunities to change. I still think about that day Elena walked onto our ship alone, how she faced down a pirate king with nothing but words and the promise of what her species would do if she didn't walk back out. How she turned a hostage situation into a job interview. How she looked at criminals and saw potential employees. That's the thing about humans. They're unpredictable, irrational. They do things that make no tactical sense. They risk everything for people they've never met. They show up when nobody else will. They believe in second chances and third chances, and as many chances as it takes. And if you threaten one of them, they all come. Not with threats or violence, though they're capable of both. They just arrive. They surround you. They watch. They wait. And they make it very clear that you've made an enemy you don't want. But if you work with them, if you take the hand they extend, if you're willing to change direction and try something new, they become the best allies you could ask for. Raktos understood that. Eventually, so did I. The Pirate King took hostages, A human diplomat walked in alone and walked out with all of them, not through force, but through the promise of something better. A second chance, a new direction, a partnership built on mutual benefit rather than mutual destruction. And in the end, that changed everything, not just for Raktos or his crew, but for the entire outer reach, for the galaxy's understanding of what humans were capable of, for every person who'd been written off as beyond redemption but just needed someone to believe they could change. Elena Reeves didn't rescue hostages that day. She rescued possibilities, and the galaxy became a little bit better because of it. That's the human way, I suppose. Make things better even if you benefit from it. Especially if you benefit from it. Turn enemies into allies. Turn chaos into order. Turn pirates into protectors. And always, always show up when one of your own needs you. Because that's what makes them human. And that's what makes them dangerous. And that's what makes them invaluable. All at the same time.